And so, to the trickster. Jungian psychology has a very interesting idea that we each do not have one personality, but a dialogue of parts that keeps us in balance. We each need to have in us a trickster, the sneaky, playful individualist who owes nothing to anyone. This part is very useful for keeping us out of fundamentalism of any sort. The trickster has no respect, which is useful. Anyone who is too intense, too rigid, anyone who is too caught up in something, especially if it has an ism at the end of its name, anyone who is caught up in anything too intensely needs more trickster. The writer Robert Moore says, if you have a compulsive tendency to blush, then you probably need work at integrating your trickster, because he doesn't get embarrassed so easily. In earlier cultures, tricksters were known as delight makers because they contained the pure instinctual energy which was present before consciousness reached the level where it could observe and objectify what it saw. Tricksters have a dual nature in mythology, half animal and half divine, and are able to change themselves into other forms, play magic pranks, and they used to appear in carnival culture as the court jester and the fool, and in folklore as characters like Tom Thumb. They appear because of their state of preconsciousness, but they also possess tremendous powers of healing and transformation. If the trickster's energy is continually repressed or literalized, that energy can take on a more extreme and almost demonic nature. In the Golden Ages, figures carrying this energy were seen as the forerunners of the Saviour. They were God, man, and animal all at once, subhuman and superhuman and unconscious. Trickster figures may be obvious, like the magician or sorcerer, or those figures who are in our dreams, which are half man and half beast, like the Minotaur. We do not understand tricksters, but we feel drawn to them. They get under our skin. We easily fall under their spell, especially if we've been overly conscious for too long. The alchemical figure Mercurius and the mystical god Hermes come into play when we take ourselves too seriously, or are too puffed up or too literal, or when we have not attended to something as deeply as we should have. The trickster is present when you are about to give a paper at an important conference, and suddenly one of the papers goes missing. Or when you want to impress somebody for egotistical reasons and suddenly find that your fly's undone, or you forgot to sew a button on, or there's a ladder in your stocking. The trickster shows us up, lays us bare, renders us ridiculous for the purpose of naming our pride, our cheating, and our laziness. In everyday life, and much more hidden, are the ordinary people who carry the trickster energy. People who prick balloons, who say the unsayable, who seem immoral, those who charm and seduce us, and into whose arms we would fling ourselves in a rapture in order to be transported to another better and more exciting world. It is the trickster's voice which says, "You don't need rules," and helps us play truant for a day or two. It's the trickster's voice that says, "Just have one more drink," when we know we've had enough, and to court more would be to invite in the addict in us. Entertaining the trickster has its risks. On one level, you can have too much trickster. Robert Moore says, if you have a friend who is a very cynical individual, his trickster is on automatic. Ask him to tell you about the men he admires, and if he can't list his masculine saints who function for him in his life, then his trickster is on pretty much automatic. Show me a man who has no man whom he admires, and I'll show you a man whose trickster is running all over the place. An overactive trickster can lead to a level of cynicism which is really just intellectual sulking that is immobilizing and precludes the taking of any strong action. And the trickster can be dangerous. Trickster energy can invite us into a dangerous love affair with alcohol, illicit drugs and gambling. It will tease us into the apparent charms of these tasty morsels and carry us far on their ocean wave, and we will have a fantastic time for a while. As humans, we need to meet the trickster energy within us and without us, recognize it for what it is and forge a relationship with us that is right for us. We must find a way in our humanness to resist the temptations of trickster energy in order to return saddened perhaps, but wiser, and having had an adventure. And it will be worthwhile, but only if we do not linger too long. Trickster energy awakens in us something that has been dormant or repressed or unlived. It plunges us into areas we would never choose. It pulls us into the opposite. It tears off any masks that we might have been wearing. It leads to the fall from grace of high-profile people, the puncturing of the pompous, the challenging of the over-secure, the over-literal, and the overconfident. And some people seem to carry more trickster energy than others and live within the trickster mode for most of their life. Perhaps you know people like that. Perhaps there are people in this congregation that fit that mould. They are identified with as if their life mission were to bring in change for the collective. They are often the least popular, the scapegoats, and the people prepared to receive and carry our collective shadow. And so I refer back to the medieval carnival that I'm so fond of speaking about. Earlier cultures used the carnival figures of clowns and jesters to carry the collective mockery, instinctual and primitive connections for the half-human, half-animal, who could make his energies conscious and keep them in the realm of play and merriment, and keep omnipotent power in its place. If we can truly carry this edge within ourselves and our culture, we come nearer to the potential the trickster carries for initiation into a wider, wiser self, and to accepting its role in reminding us to look at life with fresh eyes and allow ourselves to be transformed.